My name is Regina Bodette, and the practice that I chose was called high intensity interval training, and it's also commonly referred to as HIIT for short. And it involves different forms of intense physical activity, particular cardio and weight training. And it can be done alone or in a group as a class. I did it on the University of Cincinnati's campus rec center until that closed due to the coronavirus, and I continued to do it with the assistance of workout videos and tutorials found on YouTube. And today I'm going to review 6 articles I found, 3 of which are from scientific literature and 3 of which are from popular literature, all pertaining to high-intensity interval training. The first article I found was from scientific literature, and it was entitled "The Effect of Preconditioning with High-Intensity Training on Tissue Levels of GCSF, its Receptor and c-KIT After an Acute Myocardial Infarction in Rats." So it's a research study about high-intensity interval training in rats. It was published by a peer-reviewed scientific journal article called BMC Cardiovascular Disorders. And I found the study to make fairly clear conclusions. So it found that stem cell recruitment factors were increased in rats, which is indicative of an increased ability to be able to protect their heart, thus lowering the damage done to the heart done by acute myocardial infarction, which might be more commonly known as heart attack. A thing that was not as strong in the study was its sample size, because it only involved 20 rats. However, something that did contribute to its strength of its evidence was that it used other scientific literature in supporting its study. It used a total of 47 references. So, because this article had a small sample size, but it was published in a peer-reviewed journal, used literature review, and made fairly clear conclusions, I deemed it to have good strength of its evidence for a research study. The next article that I looked at was entitled "High-Intensity Interval Training Does Not Have Compensatory Effects on Physical Activity Levels in Older Adults." And this one involved elderly males who were divided into 2 groups, one of the groups doing high-intensity interval training, the other doing continuous moderate weight training, each for 3 times a week for a period of 8 weeks. This was published in a peer-reviewed journal, which was entitled International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. And I found the article to have a somewhat clear conclusion, explained that there were no clear negative evidence of high-intensity interval training on the participants. It also used scientific literature in reviewing its study and cited 50 references. However, one thing important to note was that some of the data from other research studies did not match with it. The article also had a small sample size. Its sample size was only in the 20s. And so having this small sample size hurts the strength of its evidence. So I concluded that despite being published in a peer-reviewed journal and using literature, due to having somewhat clear conclusions and a small sample size, that the research study had weak strength of its evidence. The next journal I looked at from the scientific literature was entitled, the article was entitled "Effects of High-Intensity Interval Training on Vascular Function and Maximum Oxygen Uptake in Young Sedentary Females." It involved a group of sedentary females and found that HIIT in the form of cycling increased their cardiovascular function and cardiorespiratory fitness. This was a pilot study, meaning that it did have a smaller sample size, and so this decreased the strength of its evidence. Additionally, not all of the participants completed the study. Out of the 24 originally involved, only 22 of them completed the study. However, I deemed the article to have good strength in its evidence because it was published in a peer-reviewed journal. It did use literature review, and it did make clear conclusions that there were clear benefits from the qualitative data they measured on the females to the effects of high-intensity interval training on them. Although the article could have had a larger sample size, which would have made it have stronger evidence, which is why I did not rate it as having stronger evidence than I did. Next, I'm going to talk about the evidence I found from the 3 articles from popular literature. I found most of these articles to be more focused on the individual rather than looking at qualitative data and reviewing that. A lot of these were opinionated and had advice for individuals on how to perform a high-intensity interval training workout. For example, the first article I looked at was entitled, "What is HIIT? This high-intensity workout helps you burn maximum fat." It was published by today.com, and it gives a brief explanation of high-intensity interval training, and then it showed with pictures how to do several exercises such as squat jumps and toe taps, which could be combined to form a doable high-intensity interval training exercise at home. It did not reference any scientific literature, although it did attempt to support its conclusion by providing links to other articles published on the same website, but didn't really explain these in the article. It just had the links to them. And it appeared to be largely the opinion of the writer, who is self-reported to be a weight loss coach and expert in fitness. So overall, I deemed this article to have weak strength of its evidence. Because it didn't reference scientific literature, it was largely the opinion of the writer, and it had little explanation through the article and didn't have a clear conclusion. The next article I looked at was published by dailyburn.com, entitled "The Do It Anywhere HIIT Workout You Need to Try," and it provided a definition of HIIT and lists multiple benefits of it, such as that it increases metabolism. And it provided a HIIT workout with descriptions of how to do each exercise. It did reference a study which was done by the American College of Sports Medicine, and it also referenced a teacher of fitness. And I deemed this article to have good strength of its evidence for an article from popular literature because it referenced a study. An expert included the opinion of said expert, and it clearly supported its conclusion with evidence in the article when explaining in the article. Next, there was an article from the website Sworkit, which was entitled "Pros and Cons of High-Intensity Interval Training." Reviewed benefits and drawbacks of high-intensity interval training. I found this article to have very weak strength of its evidence because it only cited 2 sources, one of which was a link to on their website where you could buy fitness equipment, so I found this to be a conflict of interest. So it had unreliable sources of evidence rather than referencing scientific literature. So, in conclusion, the scientific literature I found, I believe, was stronger than the popular literature, in part because of how it referenced things, although there are different standards that can be used for evaluating scientific and popular literature. Both of them are valuable. Thank you.